In a world where no one can leave their house due to an infection, our savior rises up from the abyss to save us from mediocrity. A savior which has been calling to us from beyond the vessel. And that savior, of course, is Dark Souls. Hollow Knight is by far one of the best games I've ever played. It has everything: good music, beautiful art, stunning environments. It's sort of a review, so I'm going to be talking about nearly every aspect of the game, so big spoiler warning ahead. I recommend to everyone who hasn't already played this game themselves, go do that first before watching this video. So see ya in 4 years. I'm going to take you on a journey about bugs, magic white stuff, and of course, cheese. People in this society, it's so great with their cheese. Why can no one see how great it is? Just enjoy your cheese, for crying out loud. Hey, I recognize that theme. It's the theme of False Knight. Such great music. Let's talk about that now. The music in Hollow Knight is incredible. Christopher Larkin did a phenomenal job making the music super fun, emotional, and above all, memorable, resulting in some of the best video game music I've ever heard. I'm not compromising on that front, it's a fact, and you know it. If you need an area or a boss, I could tell you the name of the accompanying OST in a heartbeat. There are definitely some themes that are weaker, but they're all at least decent. If I had to name 3 of my favorites, I would pick Grim, White Palace, and Dung Defender. They were the first 3 that came to mind, because honestly I don't have a single favorite. Like I said, they're all good, and the ones that are not as good are themes like Dreamer, which you only really hear for 30 seconds, so in total it isn't too bad. I guess the only downside of having so much good music in your game is that it makes it hard to appreciate all of them. I'll explain what I mean. If there's a game with like 1, maybe 2 good songs, they really stand out among mediocrity, but when you have a lot of good music, it becomes harder to remember all of them, unfortunately. Risk of Rain has a similar problem. Most of the songs are really strong, with a few that are not as good, but if you ask me to name all the good ones, it would take much longer than forget it. I don't know what point I was making here. TLDR, the songs in Hollow Knight slap really hard, and I'm thankful they were made, as most elevate the game's experience a lot. I'm not gonna spoil it too much, as I really encourage everyone who hasn't yet played this game themselves to do that first, as it's magical. Might sound a bit hyperbolic, but I'm dead serious. This game, it's a true gem, and the music does everything to make that known. It's like the icing on the beautiful cake called Hollow Knight. For years, I've been trying to convince people to show them the unfathomable power and wisdom of cheese. But no one will listen to me. It is foolishness in every sense of the word. The theme of Dung Defender, such a bop. He's also a pretty great boss. Why don't we talk about that now, shall we? Hollow Knight's bosses are beyond incredible. They're very diverse and all of them are super interesting in their own way. This is a fact. If you disagree, you'll be yeeted into the abyss. You heathens. Something I like a lot about the bosses in Hollow Knight is how well they're tied into the lore. Not all bosses are lore tied per se, but the large majority are definitely in some way. It makes the bosses feel much more important than just some random evil villain, and in turn it makes them feel all the more special and memorable. You're probably wondering who my favorite boss is. Well, stay tuned. I'll tell you about him later. Some other bosses I love with all my heart and would sacrifice my entire bloodline to honor are Dung Defender, Pure Vessel, Grim, and Nightmare King Grim. They're just the ones I could think of from the top of my head. Most bosses I find cool as hell in their own way. Except for Umu. He can burn in the depths of hell alongside the guy who decided that Myla should die. I would check if their doors were locked more often. Dung Defender is so amazing, like his whole fight. The attacks, the area, the music, the fact he's having a great time, like oh my god! Who thought it was okay to make one of the best boss fights known to man? Pure Vessel, Grim, and Nightmare King Grim are either fun, because their fight is really hard, or their music is good, or both. I can gush about the bosses in Hollow Knight for hours. They're just so great, oh my god! I've roamed the lands, telling people the tales of the mighty farmers, how they molded the milk gifted to us by the cows and turned it into the most delicious dairy product you will ever find, but no one listened. Oh god, yes, the theme of City of Tears. One of the prettiest areas in the whole game, just oh my god. Oh, that reminds me, I wanted to talk about the areas of Hollow Knight, so I'm gonna do that now. Every single
hacking
area in Hollow Knight is special and cool, and no one can change my mind on that. They're all amazing, and even the ones that aren't as pretty due to whatever reason, like Forgotten Crossroads, because of the drab color palette, they're still super memorable. And if you ask me, on the street, I could name every area easily. Like I said, some areas definitely have their flaws, but it's more of a preference really. I personally find the drab color palette in the Forgotten Crossroads not too appealing, but it makes sense in context. Like, it's right on the Dirtmouth, and it hasn't been affected too much by any influence. Yeah. My favorite area is probably either the City of Tears, Crystal Peaks, or Queen's Gardens. The City of Tears is the capital of Hallownest, and it's absolutely beautiful. The music as well, it makes it feel so rich, and really makes you think, like, what went down here? I vividly remember the first time I sat on the bench with Coral, enjoying the music, and it gave me goosebumps. I was just thinking, like, is it possible for this game to get even better? Looking back on that statement, yes, absolutely. Like, Crystal Peaks as well, it's so visually pleasing. Well, it's definitely not my favorite area, like, layout wise. It does look cool, and I really like some platforming sections, like the one to get the Crystal Heart. Although the Dark Room can eat my balls. Gargle on them. And Queen's Gardens is more, like, it's more obscure in the sense that it's super difficult to get to. And once you get there, it does feel very worth it all. Yeah, absolutely. The music gives me goosebumps every time I hear it, and the whole vibe, it's so magical. I think my biggest criticism for this area is, again, the layout. It's not bad, but maybe it's because of my bad memory, but it feels so disconnected. It feels like there's this potential for something absolutely stellar, but the way the area is laid out, it just feels so confusing. I don't know how else to put it. There's more areas I love. Maybe I'll make a separate video on them in more detail. Maybe I'll do that on more of these topics. I don't know. Sounds kind of fun. For now though, Hollow Knight's map is by far the best I've ever seen in any video game ever. No, I will not compromise on that front. It's a fact. Cheese is my passion. It's what I live for. And when I die, I will pass down the ancient knowledge of the blocks of solidified milk to my pupils. No one loves cheese more than me. It's just not possible. And anyone who claims differently will feel the wrath of my cheesy passion. Hornet's theme. A really important character to the lore. Wait, did someone say lore? Let's talk lore. Hollow Knight's lore is astoundingly great. Literally, pick any synonym for amazing. They all work. No, but seriously, the only game I can think of from the top of my head, which is more lore, like more in-depth lore than this game, is the Five Nights at Freddy's series. A franchise that has like 10 games at this point? Like, Jesus. Pretty obvious that it gets beaten by a franchise with super deep lore and so many entries. And like, the FNAF lore in it, it's amazing in its own way. But also very convoluted and it makes no sense anymore, but let's not talk about that now. It's hard to explain, but I just feel much more of a connection to the Hollow Knight lore over the FNAF lore. For people who don't know me, which is probably the majority, you probably have no idea how big of a statement that is, but FNAF was a massive part of my childhood. Still is to this day, but more so in my youth. It's what I grew up on, and I was deeply invested in the lore, so I think you might be able to see how amazed even I am that I love Hollow Knight's lore even more. The story is tragic and it has some of the best world building I've ever seen in media, portrayed by nearly mute bugs. It's like, Team Cherry, how did you do this? I want to know. The music, bosses, areas, characters, all of them. So perfectly intertwined into the lore, it's beyond amazing. Like, how do you think of this? The Team Cherry just sent God a DM on Discord and was like, yo, can you give me the holy juice? I want to throw it on this game idea we have. And God was all like, yeah, here you go, and just make sure to throw in some religion and I'll be good. I really can't stress it enough. Like, this game is so fire. I swear this was made by Gorp to have us all ascend with him, which honestly doesn't sound too bad. I'm already depressed anyway, so ascending with a 10 million IQ sluggy boy? Hell yeah, I'm down. Hollow Knight has had a great influence on my life and pop culture. There's a ton of references to Hollow Knight in other games, most recently Dead Cells. There's also a lot of merchandise from Hollow Knight and most of it is really high quality, which is always a plus. This game will always have a special place in my heart, and after watching this video, if I didn't convince you to play this game, then I have no words. You're probably still wondering who my favorite boss is, aren't you? Well, since you've come this far, I'll tell you. Come closer. It's cheese, obviously. Did you miss me? I was the cheese deity the entire time and you had no idea. Finally, I can let my secret be known to the world and rule together with my feta fledglings. And no one will be able to stop me.